Hi, everyone. Today, we're going to talk about something really important, and that's a spotting session. Spotting sessions occur after a composer has been brought on board to discuss the overall tone and music for a film. Now, there's a lot that goes on in the spotting session, and I'm going to do my best to demystify it for you. So how it typically works out is you meet a director, you meet a producer, you develop a relationship, and then at the time comes when you get the call or the email to work on a project. Now, when you first get hired on for the gig, you have secured that gig. Yes, I'm so excited. Hell yes. But after that, that's where the work really comes in. And then from that point, once you've acquired the gig, the director has a sense of, okay, I know what this person does. I know what they can bring to the table. So you kind of have an idea of what the overall tone you're trying to get. They will tell you in the brief when you audition for the gig, or when they just email you out of the blue asking you to do it. So the overall idea and tone of the film, is relatively discussed at the beginning. But the spotting session is when you can really dive deep, get into the bones, or the inner workings of the film. You're going to watch it from the very beginning to the very end. Sometimes you will stop and dissect each scene if you have very analytical directors. Sometimes they'll just let you watch it from beginning to end, and you can talk notes at the same time. Now, good directors will have scenes mapped out. Say they have 96 scenes in the film, and they'll say, okay, well, scene 1 through scene 3 has music, and then you can go along with the film when you're watching it with the script or whatnot, or you can watch it, and you can see the scenes, and you can say, okay, well, the music's going to be through this scene. And then you can kind of attack each chunk of the film that way. I think that's probably one of the best ways to do it, because it gives you a line list of things. And while you're watching it as well, you can also write down, okay, at 4 minutes and 12 seconds, or just some kind of 4-minute mark or whatever. Okay, well, this scene comes in here. I think there needs to be music here. Because sometimes they may have music in a scene that doesn't need music. And then sometimes they may have a scene where it needs music because the acting isn't really, it needs work, or it needs to have some kind of lift to it. It's great when you can do it in person, because you can sit back and kind of watch the other people's reaction to what's going on, what they think is going on. And it kind of also can let you know, where you feel like music could be needed or not, just by kind of the responses that you're getting from watching it with someone. Now, you have to keep in mind that when you've typically are on this type of process, the directors and the producer, whoever is in the room with you, sometimes the editor as well, they've seen this thing so many times. So they may just say like, oh, well, this needs to be whatever, just ignore this. But you can kind of use those to your advantage as well to say, oh yeah, I totally could see maybe we cut these frames out here. We stay on this a little longer, and I could do something musically to enhance this scene and give them a new perspective that they didn't, otherwise think about. So that can be a cool little trick that you can do if you're in person, because you can kind of see it. On an online setting, it's difficult because you're not watching, you're watching the screen, and you can't really watch the people in the bubbles. So it's a little difficult. Now, we're going to discuss the elephant in the room, the temp track. Before you've even been brought onto the gig, typically, the director will sit down with the editor early on. If it's an indie film, the director will also be the editor and the caterer, and I don't know, everyone else. They'll have 17 hats on, but they will sit down and they will kind of create an edit based off of music. They will have some temp music that they use to develop the flow and the pacing and the cutting of each scene. And so you have to realize that when you walk into the spotting session, you're going to have temp music that's already there. And the temp music that's there is a placeholder, but directors can fall in love with the temp, which is called temp love. And it's a very difficult space to be in, because you're hired on to bring your own creative ideas, but to also work alongside other creatives to tell this story. And so there's this fine line between paying homage to the temp, but also going against the temp. And that's something you can flesh out, obviously during the during the spotting session, you can say, okay, well, are you thinking you're wanting this type of music here? And they can say, oh yeah, we really like, this sound. And then you can say, okay, well, you can make a note and be like, okay, well, they like the sound of these trombones here. They like the sound of, maybe they don't know the instrument. Maybe they just know we like this feeling here. And you can say, okay, well, they like this feeling, and these instruments are causing this feeling. So you can make a kind of mental note, or you can jot it down. And from there, you can kind of use the temp as a way to, you can extrapolate the information that you want without trying to essentially copy it verbatim. And that's difficult to do. And it does take some time to develop that skill set, but it's really important. Some directors are very throw caution to the wind with temp tracks. They don't really care. They're just used as something to throw on the page that they can just rip off and put your own music, put some other music on there. But some people are very much attached to it, and they really want this sound, they want this build, they want this tension, they want this release. And that's tough because obviously temp tracks are pieces of music that have already been created, that have been mixed and mastered, and the difficulty with that is that they've spent months and months and months developing this one piece of music that they've ripped from somewhere else, and you've got to recreate it in a couple of weeks and make it just as good or better than something that's had so much time to develop. Or if it's a multi-million-dollar film. I've had temps from The Dark Knight, Clockwork Orange, Mindhunter, Social Network, man, so many different types of temps. And yeah, it's tough because temps can put you in a box, like I said. But if you can dissect the information that they're wanting to feel from it, then you can use it to your advantage. So once you've sat down with the filmmakers, you've written the punch list out of where you think music needs to be if they don't have it already written out, or you have your own notes and ideas of what is needed for the score, then from that point, you guys can just say, okay, I really think music should be in these sections that wasn't in here. And then if they have to renegotiate a cost or things of that nature, you can. Typically, most of the time, I do a package deal. So per minute of music isn't as important to me, because if I add 2 minutes here, I may have lost 3 minutes of music here. So it all kind of evens out. But once you kind of have your shot list, you would say, of music, and you know where the music needs to be, you can then attack the score. And so what I mean by that is you can go into your session, you can drop the film in, and you can tackle, say, if there's 90 minutes of film, there's maybe 30 minutes of music. From those 30 minutes of music, maybe it's 15 cues. So that's 2 minutes of music a piece, whatever math it is. But you can then start tackling each section. And then from there, you can start piecing it together, and they can throw it in the edit, and they can see how it feels and how it works. But that's why the spotting session is so important, because it sets the groundwork for what the score is going to sound like, how the score is going to accentuate the film, and how the overall identity of the score is going to be made. It's really important to really be prepared when it comes time to do the spotting session. You really need to be conscientious of the edits and the transitions, because that's where the devil's in the details with transitions, in my opinion. Transitions are really important. They help you get from one scene to another. And I think that's one of the things that sometimes directors have the hardest time with, is transitioning, getting out of this scene. Okay, well, do we add a flurry of notes, or we just have like one piano note, or do we have like a series of drones, or do we have a solo violin, any of these sounds? We can use those musical textures to help transition the scenes. My final takeaway is just remember, temps are in the name. Temp, temporary. They're there to be a placeholder to help you to establish the sound and the identity of the score and the mood and the intensity or the action or the drama that the director is trying to convey with temporary music. And it's our job to take and extrapolate those ideas and morph them into our own scores that help propel the narrative. So with that said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. It's a little different than other videos that I've done, but I wanted to talk more about the business side of what goes into being a film composer. And the spotting session is way up there on the list of important things to be able to manage and handle well. Being able to communicate and dictate your ideas and your choices are very imperative because you, at the end of the day, are the expert in music, and they are counting on you to develop the story with music. Thank you guys so much for watching. There's a link right here to other videos I've done. You can check them out there. But until then, please like, subscribe, ring the bell, and I'll see you all next time.